Arr! Welcome back to the Pirate Odyssey, a One Piece discussion traversing through its anime adaptation, using the perspectives of a long-time fan, myself, Sour Lemon, and a first-time viewer, my co-host, CamCam.
Hi. I love that pirate voice.
You never know what will be encountered in this great pirate era. And our next discovery are a bunch of fucking dragons.
Let's go! I love the dragons!
They're millennial dragons, and they exist for 1,000 years. Or they migrate for 1,000 years, rather.
Yeah.
Because they're really cool, I guess. So yes, today we are talking about one of the filler arcs of One Piece. The Millennial Dragon arc. It's the one thing to note about filler in One Piece is that it's never bad. That's not strictly true. It's usually not bad. It's not really relevant to what's going on in One Piece, but it's not bad. It's actually generally pretty enjoyable and on tone for One Piece, and that is of course what we get with Warship Island. It's the actual name of the arc. It's called fucking Millennial Dragon arc. Do you have anything to say right off the bat?
I really like this arc, because it's really emotional for me. Like, oh my god, I just cried like a baby through this arc. It was very embarrassing, so sorry about that.
Yeah,
But
we have a little bit of difference in opinion in that regard because I'm like, man, fucking One Piece filler, like, snore. But it is.
I loved it.
It is at least definitely better than the post Alabasta filler. That is for sure.
Oh my god, yeah. I think we just talked through that whole thing.
We definitely did, and part of it was because it was like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. This is so stupid.
Yeah, honestly. But I will say that, like, this arc is a lot better than, like, I would say, like, Naruto filler or, like, Bleach filler.
Yeah.
Like, 100%. Because, like, Naruto and Bleach filler just, like, takes you out of the whole experience. And,
I never
it's
looked
just...
into it, but I have to wonder sometimes if the filler was in some ways like written by or with the supervision of Oda. Because it's either that or the creators of the anime have a very good understanding of what One Piece is supposed to be like, even if they don't, of course, know the narrative in the same way that Oda does.
Yeah. And it's in this arc, like, all the characters, it's like very true to their personalities as well. Like, it's not just their, like, stereotypical personalities. Like, you have Luffy, who's, like, very goofy and kind of childlike, and Zoro is kind of stoic. Like, you get their full personalities in this arc, which I do like, versus, like, in Bleach and Naruto, where you just kind of get, like, the top layer of their personalities, and that's it. So, yeah. And that's why I did like this arc, so.
And it did have emotions, even if I was not particularly affected by them in the same way I am other arcs of One Piece.
And I think this arc, I think probably the reason why I found it so emotional as well is probably because of it reminded me a lot of like childhood movies that I used to watch like in the early 2000s. Do I remember those movies? No. But like it had like a very nostalgic feel to it. Um like through like God, what is that movie called? I can't remember the fucking
Yeah,
movie.
I can't tell you what it's called if I have zero information on what movie you're talking
Yeah.
about.
But like just like the whimsical feel of it, and like the traveling, going to like a mystical island, figuring out the puzzle pieces, being like the whole immortality aspect, like the childlike wonder, the innocence of a child, you know. So yeah, I think that's probably why I liked it so much, because of the nostalgia. So yeah, of like other, remind me of other childhood movies. So yeah.
You are also something of an animal person, as I've come to know.
Yes, I love animals, and since I worked in daycare for like 6 years, I love kids as well. So like, put those two get together, and like, man, I'm just gonna cry. I'm just gonna cry. Like, forget it. Game over. Just waterworks. I think I had to mute myself because I just had to like blow my nose and like sob a little.
That's not
Fucking ridiculous.
muting yourself to sob. I scoff at you. I sob openly during our One Piece watch sessions. I
No,
got
you
the fucking
understand. It was
manly
like
tears flowing down my face at the end of every single fucking arc, man.
it was like like that. It was so embarrassing. Look, I can't do that. I can't do that in front of people. So sorry. I'm glad you can. I'm glad you feel comfortable around me to do that. But like, so sorry. Maybe next time. Maybe
It's
next
not a
time.
matter of who, man. It's just you gotta own One Piece with your chest, man. You gotta own it.
May,
Um,
wait, no.
Also, our
It was
video
the art.
cameras aren't on when we're watching too, so that helps.
It was the next arc with Copper or Chopper. What's
Chopper.
his name?
I can't believe
What the
he's
fuck
a
is his name?
member of the Straw Hats and you don't remember his fucking name. Tony Chopper.
There you go, Chopper. Oops, my bad.
Yeah,
Same thing.
Tony Chopper.
Same difference.
Drum Island is the name of the arc. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Okay.
that one is like it hits you in the feels for like
Oh yeah.
4 straight episodes.
Oh
It's
yeah. I openly
rough.
sobbed during that arc. I was like, "This hurts. This hurts." I don't have time to mute myself to sob.
That one's rough, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
For
Well, yeah.
now,
We'll get there.
we
Yeah.
got to talk about a little girl who was kidnapped by the Marines by the name of Apis.
Yeah. Yep.
What are your thoughts
Oh.
on Apis?
I think she represents like this childlike innocence that we all have as kids. Um where she's not like she's not selfish at all. She has no stake in the game. Like
Children
she's
being not selfish is common. I'm sorry, children are like the most selfish. They're just not
no,
underhanded about it. They're upfront.
but like yeah, but like kids in movies, you know? Like is what I mean. Like real life children are like this is mine and I want it and you cannot have it. But like kids in movies are like not selfish,
are
okay?
angelic, yeah. Most
Yeah,
kids
yeah.
in movies are angelic.
Yeah. And I'm like that's not real life. Like go work at a daycare for like an hour and you'll find out what real kids are like. But anyways, and like she gets kidnapped and they end up saving her and when we do
Yeah.
kind of get her personality and like I said she represents like
You're
this childlike innocence.
you're immediately introduced to the Marines being the core bad guys of this arc, which is actually something I would say rarely see in One Piece is like the Marines being the bad guys. They're usually like there and against the Straw Hat Pirates. But as we go to see in Alabasta, they're not like the bad guys of that arc. Crocodile
Yeah, yeah.
is. They just happen to not be able to be the heroes of the arc. The Straw Hats are.
Mhm.
Um, but
Yeah,
here
but
we
they
have
are
like the
openly
Marines are the bad guys
like malicious. Like you're kidnapping a child. Like bros,
Yes,
what is happening? So of
for
course like
really selfish reasons.
yeah. So like of course like the straw hats are going to get involved. Like duh. Like they also represent like kind of like superheroes and like justice. So like of course they're not going
Freedom
to
is
leave like a
more
self
accurate
yeah.
of what the Straw Hats represent as like a specifically Luffy, but as a group, what they represent functionally is freedom.
Yeah. And so of course they're going to jump in and save her. No
Yeah,
questions asked. Like
it is. It
they're
is.
going to risk their lives to do it.
It is actually interesting to note. We see throughout this arc there are effectively 3 main Marine characters. The big fat Commodore guy, the
Mhm.
squinty eyed sicko guy, and
Eric.
the
Yeah.
and I don't remember if they're the like lieutenant or whatever his name is
Yeah, I don't remember his name
position
is
is. I don't
too.
remember if he has a name. But
I
you
think he
actually,
does, but I don't remember.
yeah, it doesn't. He's a minor character functionally. Um, but it's interesting to note how he at least has something of like a good head on his shoulders and something of a sense of justice as compared to Sicko Sicko and Commodore Nelson.
Yeah.
Um, but despite that, since he's a lower rank than those two, he has to act according to their orders. And so
Yeah.
he cannot be a good person because he's not in a position where he just is not in a position where he can be.
Yeah. But all he's doing is just doing what he's told. Like like most people in his situation would. I mean, they may know something is wrong, but they have no choice but to do what they're told.
Yeah,
Because I mean, and we see Eric like purposely like cut down people like who don't listen, who don't follow his orders. Like because there's some soldiers who are like questioning him, and he just like cuts them down. So like, and the Commodore Nelson guy, I mean, he's like that as well. Like he'll veer in his way, he'll cut you down as well.
yeah,
So like what can he do in his situation, you know?
yeah. The only times he goes against orders are when like the entirety of his crew is in imminent threat of just dying straight up because of the first situation with the calm bell and then the second situation where it's the mirage and they're like I don't know what's fucking beyond the mirage, like that's pretty dangerous to just find it, go into the unknown. I know the straw hats do it like it's
Literally.
their fucking job, but going into the unknown is not generally smart.
Yeah, like Eric, if you want to go in that boat and head over there, like you do you, boo boo. But
But
like,
I'm not
we'll
putting my
stay here.
entire crew at risk to do it.
Yeah, and that's very that's very commendable of him. You know, like
Yeah,
you're putting your men first in that situation. Where we have Commodore Nelson and like Eric, who have very selfish motives and are very all it's very self centered people.
yeah,
You know, they use people only for their own gain. You know, everybody else is pawns in their game.
yeah.
So it's like nice to see the differences in the same group of people.
Yeah.
So
Most of the reason I bring that up though is because, as I mentioned before, One Piece filler generally like has a good understanding of what like One Piece is about, and it's consistent with the themes of One Piece to have even like good-hearted and well-intentioned Marines still forcibly be in a position where they're antagonists,
yeah,
just because that's the nature of their job as Marines. They functionally cannot be good guys. Um, so the that's the entire reason I brought that up. Um,
yeah,
moving forward, we get so the Straw Hats. Well, Apis escapes from prison on the ship, and she gets on board the Straw Hat ship. And she's fucking bad at cooking.
oh yeah, yeah,
To the extent that only Luffy is able to eat her food.
of course,
Classic Luffy. He thinks it tastes delicious
garbage
because he
disposable,
doesn't have taste buds.
literally a garbage disposal.
Yeah, she like mixed up the hot sauce and some other sauce too, I'm pretty sure. And so like
Mm-hmm.
everybody was fucking dying and Sanji's like, no, you gotta eat your food. I won't allow wasting food. Um
So like, sorry, it might taste bad, but like,
yeah,
suck it up. At least you got food in your belly.
yeah.
Remember when you guys were starving before I got here? Yeah.
Yeah, true. Um,
So
more
suck it up.
important, yeah. More importantly, though, she's able to predict a gust of wind that allows them to escape the Marines chasing them, who are
Mhm.
after Apis, rather than the Straw Hats. I can't remember if they realize that Luffy has a 30 million berry bounty on his head at the time, um, or if that, or if they realize later if like that's taken into consideration at all. Just straight up don't remember.
I don't remember either. I want to say it's later, like when they get to the worship island, but I can't be for sure on that. So
it doesn't functionally matter,
Yeah, yeah.
but it would be interesting thematically if in conversation between that like lieutenant guy and Eric, he's like 30 million berry bounty, kind of above my pay grade. I'm not really qualified to attack this guy, and Eric is like, fuck you, we're attacking him anyways. Um,
Yeah, like, sorry.
but I might just be making that up in my head. Anyways, the gust of wind allows them to escape, and they end up in the calm belt. Now, this is
Which
something
isn't
that
a good thing, right? I think.
no, it's not a
Yeah,
good thing. Now,
I think is what
this is
Nami says.
something that I believe shows up in the manga by this point in time. Though obviously, since this is filler, it's through a different context. But the calm belt is actually like an important setting detail of the world of One Piece. Um, what do you think of the calm belt?
Um, I just remember
You don't
like
remember what it
Nami
is.
just yeah, I don't remember much about it, but I remember Nami just like freaking out. Like at
So
like her scream, like oh my god, she I feel like she screams a lot in this arc. It's either
well, I
her or
mean, she
Apis.
screams a
Apis.
lot. Well, Apis definitely screams a lot, but Nami just screams
Like
a lot in general.
yeah, and the only thing I really remember is her like freaking out. But like otherwise than that, I don't really remember much about the calm belt to be honest. But it's been a
So
while.
the world of One Piece consists of 4/5/6 oceans.
Yeah.
The north, south, east, and west blue, as well as the two halves of the Grand Line that kind of split the middle of them all, which itself is also crisscrossed by the red line. Um, the Grand Line is surrounded on either side by a section of ocean called the Calm Belt, where
Mm.
due to, whatever pseudo weathery stuff, um, it receives no wind at all. Like no weather happens in the Calm Belt. And what that means is that once you are in the Calm Belt, in order to get out, you have to row yourself out of the Calm Belt.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that's right.
and it makes it, and the reason that it is difficult to get in and out of the Grand Line using the Calm Belt is not just because you have to row, but also because it's home of sea kings. It's just littered with sea kings, just the gigantic fucking sea creatures that will eat you nonchalantly.
Yeah.
And so that's why Nami freaks out. And in classic Straw Hat fashion, they escape via luck, effectively, in that they don't immediately get eaten, and they concoct a sort of plan to cause the one in which they're chilling on to sneeze.
Oh, I think I remember. Didn't like Luffy climb on top of one or something?
I believe it was Apis fell
Okay.
off of the boat. Luffy grabbed her, and then I think it might have been Nami told him to like stretch his arm in a particular way, so that she or no, Apis tells him to stretch his arm in a particular way, so that she goes in and plucks a nose hair from the
Oh
fish
yeah.
and sneezes.
Oh my god. Freaking wild. But yeah, okay, I remember that now.
Yeah. Um, so it's interesting and definitely something to keep in mind as far as the setting goes for One Piece. Going farther, you effectively cannot escape the Grand Line using conventional means when you're in there, and
Yeah.
there's some
I
other
do
stuff as well.
I do like in One Piece how like all the oceans are they each have their own thing. Like it's like each section has its own complications and troubles that you have to really navigate through and you have to know what you're doing to kind of get past all the difficult terrain basically.
Well,
And
the only
I do find that very creative, honestly. I mean, because you just think it's like a like I'm like it's a fucking ocean. Like like what are you gonna do? You know?
no, the only place that's actually the case for is the Grand Line,
Yeah.
where it's just not just every weather pattern imaginable, it's also every weather pattern unimaginable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, pretty
the
much.
other four oceans are actually, at least from what we see and know, they work weather-wise like the same as each other. The
Mhm.
differences are just in, say like what species of animal and fish live there,
Yeah.
and what islands are there, and the different cultures
Yeah.
of people who live there. For example, the currently ongoing flashback, in One Piece takes place in the West Blue, where we see some interesting political stuff happening.
Yeah. But yeah, I do find that really cool because, like, I don't know, I guess when I think of, like, you being on a boat, like, there's just a couple storms here and there, like, I don't know, you don't really think much about it, but then once you actually see it in the anime and how everything works when you're in a storm and how everything functions, like, it's actually pretty cool.
I mean,
And
that's a very
it's very
nonchalant
brave.
way of saying that you have no idea what it's like to be a sailor.
No, I don't. I don't like water. Like, I don't like the ocean and I don't like boats. Like, I don't. Like, I get seasick. So, I've been on one boat one time to go see dolphins in, like, Corpus Christi, and I hated it. No,
Worst
was it in
possible
Galveston?
series you could watch.
Yeah. No, so, like, I don't like boats. And then to be able not to swim and then be on the boat when, like, there's all kind of storms, sea kings, like, all this crazy shit. And, like, still be able to, like, function at the end of the day. It's pretty cool and it's very brave. So, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's very cool for, like, a first time viewer, especially who's, like, doesn't know shit about the ocean. So, yeah.
yeah. So they escape the calm belt, which is a very cool setting detail. And they, even though they were well on their way to Reverse Mountain and getting into the Grand Line, and ostensibly they're being chased by Smoker right now, they decide, no, we're gonna take a detour and take this girl to her home island,
Yeah, yeah.
and go on an adventure subsequently instead.
Yeah, and they're just like, "Oh, why not?"
Yeah, and so they head
Just like
on
a small
over.
detour.
Yeah, so they head on over to the aptly named Warship Island because it looks like a warship on a map. Actually, not even on a map. I think it's like the headstone, like the big mountain of the
Yeah.
island. Looks like
Yeah.
warship. It's one of the
Mhm.
two. So, what were your thoughts on Warship Island?
I think it's, I mean, to me, it's just like any other island, but, like, I think, the whole aspect is pretty cool, the terrain is pretty cool, and, I like the mountainous kinda region, and we do see later that there's, like, caves, and I think there's, like, bridges you can go across, and
I
I don't
think
know. I thought it's, like, very different terrain than, like, what we had seen. So,
I
yeah.
think I asked that question a little early because perhaps I should have mentioned the elder of the island
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
the subsequent culture of the island. That first of all, much like every other island, very anti-pirate initially,
Yeah, of course.
um, and a grandfather or elder of the island who is a historian, to say the least, of the island's
Yeah.
history.
Because, like, the people used to be on a different island, right? And then they came to this island? Or does that come later? Or am I getting mixed up?
I mean, that does come later, and to be
Mhm.
fair, I don't entirely remember like the timeline of people between the Lost Island and the Warship Island
Mhm.
because again,
Okay.
the I wasn't exactly paying the most attention to filler.
Oh my gosh.
Not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
And yeah. And so, like, he knows, like, the whole, family history. Like, do I know my whole family history? No. But, like, he does,
Yeah.
like, down to, like, the 100th king,
Yeah.
brother, whatever?
Yeah. So he initially offers them some food. He offers them some meat buns. And he's like, He just starts, and everybody's like, "Yeah, let's eat some meat buns." He starts cooking them. It's like he's gonna take like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about history in the meantime. And he
And
goes
everybody's
on,
kind of like,
starting from the
okay.
first king to the however many hundredth king.
Yeah, and I mean, he's even taught like everybody's like passed out at this point, right? Like I think
Yes.
we're on like 100th and something, and everybody's passed out, and even like and he's still talking in his sleep. Again, we have people talking in their sleep.
Yeah,
I don't know how
he's
you do it.
also talking in his sleep. True.
Yeah, and he's like talking and like I'm like, how many times have you like repeated your family history that you can even like you've memorized it so much that like you're talking about it in your sleep? Like, come on.
I mean, I guess this is what you do as a historian. You read some fucking textbooks and you just memorize the textbook, and then it's like I will repeat word for word the textbook.
Yeah. Oh my god. What it's just crazy. I mean, and it's in the middle of the night too, and like of course like Luffy wakes up starving.
Yes. So what happens is Appi's knowing how long and drawn out the stories are, and
Mhm.
also that everybody using that everybody falls asleep when the meat buns are finished cooking. They're all already asleep. She sees it as an opportunity to steal some of the meat buns and sneak off into the mountains.
I don't think she steals just some. I think she steals all of them.
I think she does steal
Like
all of them, yeah.
it's like a huge bag too. And at first you're like, "Girl, what are you going to do with all the meat bones? Like who are you feeding?"
Yeah. But Luffy, in his quest to both eat and use the bathroom, um, pseudo wakes up in the same way that we'll see happens in Whiskey Peak. But that
Mhm.
also alerts Nami, and Nami is like, she snuck away, and
Yeah.
she's like,
Because
wake the
Nami's
fuck
always
up,
paying
Luffy.
attention.
Yeah, she's always paying attention. She's like, wake the fuck up, Luffy. Luffy, we're going after her. Especially since she stole the food, except for
Yeah.
the one meat bun that she left for Luffy.
Just one. Like that's really going to fill him up.
Yeah.
And she don't know him.
Yeah. And so they go up and they find that she is in a cave at the top of the mountain, and in the cave is a motherfucking dragon.
A big dragon. I
Yeah,
mean, he takes up that whole cave.
I have to ask though, what do you think of the character design of the dragons and how they don't look like conventional dragons?
I thought it was pretty creative. I mean, you can they are very like bird-like in their structure.
The
And
camera is very bird-like in its functionality.
yeah. And
Oh, it caught up. There we go. Look in Discord.
oh, but like you can still tell like they're like a mystical creature like a dragon and they got like feathers and you could tell he's like really old, like he's like ancient, you know?
Yeah,
Oh, am I
because he has a
lagging?
bald spot. This is really the reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
I didn't think it was really a bald spot. Like I just thought maybe he's like shedding or something, but you know, that's just me.
so this arc came out in like 2001 or so, and I don't know what scientific developments were at the time, but we know now dinosaurs are effectively descendants of birds, and that they were
Yeah.
actually more feathery and avian than they were reptilian. And to me, the design of the dragon strikes me as inspired by that type of knowledge. Whereas, like, okay, in traditional culture, dragons are normally depicted as lizards, but in reality, especially since they can fly,
Mhm.
it would make more sense for them to be, and we know through evolution, they're actually more bird-like, and so it struck me that that was probably the idea there, is that dragons, rather than being a reptilian, would actually be avian, in the same way that dinosaurs are avian rather than reptilian.
Yeah. And I think like when the first Jurassic Park movie came out, it was like a few years after it came out, they found out that like dinosaurs like had feathers, but they decided just to keep the lizard design just because
Well, I
they already
mean,
had done it
the
once, you
movie
know.
had already come out at that point. You can't just
Yeah, yeah. So they were
rehash
like,
it,
well, we'll just
and
keep
you're
the design, you
definitely not
know.
gonna change it for the sequels.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And
And also,
so yeah, that so
reptiles
that would make
cooler
sense.
than big reptiles. I gotta say, and unless some like, I guess, artist or notable work of fiction proves me wrong, reptiles generally look fucking cooler than birds. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. I don't know. I like but like I said, I do like the design. I think it's like very whimsical and like very different. So yeah.
It's very lanky, and I do think it's
Yeah.
interesting the way he like curls. He looks like
It,
just a big fucking mass.
it he reminds me of like he almost reminds me of like a sad dog. Almost. Like he just looks like so sad. Like this sad old, you know, like the sad dogs at like the pound that are like, please take me home. Like that's what he reminds me of.
um,
Because he just like has this sad look on his face, you know?
yeah. So the dragon's name is Uncle Ryu.
Hmm.
And Apis is good friends with him because she can talk to him.
Yep.
Because unlike you, or because something you didn't pick up on somehow, she ate a devil fruit.
Yeah. I literally I didn't pick up on that till like what, 2 episodes until we like
I just straight up tell you. I
yeah.
was like, were you
Yeah.
not fucking paying attention? It said like right there in the dialogue. I thought I was the one not paying attention.
Yeah, no, I just like whew, I just like I don't know. I just thought she could just like you know that she's just
She
special
just
and
talk to
like
animals. Yeah, she's just special. She can talk to animals. Well, that's not as far fetched as you might think for like canonical One Piece, but
yeah.
that canon also comes like 10 years later.
Oh my
So
god. Okay, so yeah. Okay, not that far off. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I'll talk about that
But
when
Luffy can
later.
also
Yeah,
understand.
that's
Yeah.
later. I was gonna talk about
Okay.
that later. Um, but that's also the reason she was able to detect the wind earlier, is because she talked to a bird
Oh,
and the
because of the
bird told
birds.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's good friends with the dragon, and the dragon is dying, and the dragon is like, "I want to go home," and she's like, "I don't know where your fucking home is, but I want to help you go home." And it's big sad, and so Luffy's like, "Well, I'll just take you home then."
Yeah. Pretty much. And Nami is like, okay, like let's round everybody up. Let's get to work. Like
Nami
this is what we're
also,
gonna
in
do.
classic Nami fashion, calls him crazy initially. It's like, why? It's because the dragon's home is ostensibly on Lost Island, whose
Which is
name,
lost.
yeah, whose name comes from the fact that nobody has seen it in fucking forever.
Yeah. And
Nobody's been there in fucking forever.
I think it's like nobody alive has seen it. And like
Yeah,
that I think like the consensus is that it like sunk to the bottom of the ocean or
yeah,
something.
people think it's sunk. And so Nami's like, "Are you fucking insane?" And Luffy's like, "Yeah, we're going on an adventure." She just
Like
has to
duh.
resign herself to it.
Yeah. And so like of course like everybody's like, God, you're so bossy, Nami, because she's just like, okay, get your asses in gear, let's go.
Let's fucking go. Um, and
And
also the
so they
dragon
like
has dementia.
oh yeah. And he I think he bites Luffy.
Yes.
And and then he tries to bite what is he tries to bite Usopp. Or he does bite Usopp. And Luffy's like, it doesn't hurt. It's like he's like has a soft mouth.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
that's why I'm like, oh, he's like an old dog. Like, oh, he's so cute. Like a senile dog, you know? Mm.
he's not like Shushu, where you tell it to shake and it'll bite your hand and it hurts like
Oh
hell.
yeah, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Um so they but it's around this time the Marines show up to the island to try and catch Onepiece and the Straw Hats. And so they
Yep.
need to concoct a plan to get Ryu off the out of the cave at the top of the mountain and onto their ship so they can run away. And so what they decide to do is to build a cart out of trees,
Oh yeah.
which Zoro is very efficient at cut shaping into like different shapes.
Yeah.
Um, and
And
uh,
so is Sanji. I think Sanji does too.
well, it's yeah, but Sanji can't fucking like kick a log into the shape of a wheel.
Okay, but he like tries, okay? Like good for him. Give him some credit, okay?
I'm just saying it's on his skill set, right? I think Sanji actually might have been one of the ones sent to retrieve the ship, to move
Yeah.
it to the other side of the island. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
And
So
like at first, like of course like Opus like doesn't know their skill or like doesn't know what they're capable of
yeah,
and
she's
like doesn't
wilding
think they
out
can
at the
do it.
fact that they can chop down some trees, just fucking easily.
Okay, she's a child. Can you give her a break? Oh my god. But she's just like really amazed at their skill set and like their power and Nami's like you know don't worry like they're gonna do all the work they're strong
Yeah,
they're strong men like
these
you
guys,
know
they're
make
fucking
them do
monsters. Just
everything.
let them do it.
Yeah, like they're not regular people, they're not regular humans like us, like they're fine.
Yeah. So the plan is to use this big cart that they just made to roll him down the side of the mountain, over to the cape that looks like Usopp's nose,
Hmm.
which looks like Usopp's nose because the island is in the shape of a warship. So it's
Yep. Yep.
the bow of the ship. It looks like Usopp's nose.
Yep, of course so.
And this is where we truly get an introduction to Eric the Sicko Sicko, which is
Yep.
by far the most memorable and interesting joke of the arc, for me at least, is just calling him Sicko Sicko.
Yeah, because like it's supposed to be sickle
Yeah,
sickle.
he ate the sickle fruit, which allows him to like send cuts of sickles through the air, and also I guess makes his hair shaped like a sickle. Um, and
His
also gives
ugly
him
stupid
long
hair.
fingernails,
Ugh.
gross long fingernails.
He
Uh,
just looks ugly. Like, ew.
yeah, he's
Like,
fucking
he's just gross.
he is a sicko. Like
Yeah, sicko sicko fit.
it's not just that sicko sounds like sickle, which is apparently also the case in Japanese, at least according to the subtitles.
Oh, oh, okay.
But then again, we were watching the Netflix version, and the subtitles would be the same for both the English and Japanese.
Hmm.
So maybe it is actually something different in Japanese. Huh.
Maybe
I'll
that
think
would
about
be a
it.
question for Udi. He would know because he's
That would
certified in
be
Japanese.
a question for people who care to actually learn the language. I just only care to sing using its pronunciations sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But yeah, and who does he like? Yeah, and I think he says like I am out for like the Millennial Dragon. Like that's what we're here for, basically.
yeah, so uh, the plan, as it's been revealed by this point, is that the Millennial Dragons, in some nebulous way, are able to grant immortality to people. And so their plan is to capture Uncle Ryu so that they can, so specifically Commodore Nelson can get immortality, but also we'll find later that Sicko Man wants immortality too.
Yeah,
Um,
and he's been getting funding from Commodore Nelson to find the Millennial Dragon like all over
yeah,
the place, you know.
he's basically a
So like
mercenary.
it's
He doesn't really have an actual marine rank. I don't think he's just a
no,
mercenary.
yeah, he's like third party, but like but like the Marines have to listen to him
Yeah,
basically,
he's
do
been
what he says.
granted authority by the Commodore, so the other Marines have to listen to him because he's like the direct liaison slash subordinate sort of the Commodore.
Yeah. But it's just
Uh,
like the perfect opportunity, uh, because he gets the funding and he gets all the manpower to find the fruit, or it's not the fruit, to find the Millennial Dragon. So yeah,
yeah, and he's just a big old sicko. Um,
nasty. It's just nasty.
he
We don't clean under his fingernails.
Yeah. Also, throughout this arc, specifically in regards to Sicko Guy, you get the impression that like he's there's not like a lot of tension when it comes to fighting Sicko Man.
Mhm.
Um, Even though his powers ostensibly are like dangerous, I suppose. You know, they he cut things. He can cut with air. Um,
Yeah, and he's pretty quick.
yeah, he doesn't actually seem like all that actually strong.
Menacing. Yeah.
And you get the impression that the first two times they fight him, they're effectively just running away from him. But if they took the time to actually just beat him up, then it would have made their lives so much easier down the line. Because at the end, we see Luffy just beats him up fairly easily, at least compared to
Oh
his
yeah.
other opponents that he's had so far in the East Blue.
Oh yeah. 'Cause I think he fights Zoro too, and Zoro would have like kicked
It's
his
the
butt like immediately.
it's the name of the episode, but he also doesn't really fight Zoro. Well, because in that one, actually, I mean, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Um, so they go down the mountain. They escape the Sicko and the Marines. And they go to Lost
They
Island.
go down in that like raft. Like it's a freaking like roller coaster, man. Like down that bumpy mountainous terrain, and they're just
It's a bobsled.
downhill.
Yeah, it's about
I mean,
and I think like Zoro and Sanji are like cutting and kicking trees out of the way as they're going down too. That or
yeah.
they do
Well,
that on Lost Island because it's like basically they do the same thing
yeah,
twice in this arc. Now that I'm thinking about it,
yeah.
just do the same exact fucking thing twice.
And like Zoro at one point, like he fights Sicko, right? And then like he
You
like
made the
falls off or
sicko
something.
sicko hand gesture. He like does the thing with his two fingers.
Yeah.
Sicko sicko.
That was like unconsciously too. Great. But then he like falls and then he like meets up with him again, okay? And then like I think he's like falling down the mountain at one point. And
You're
and then
skipping
he's like
some
having
things.
trouble like fighting Sicko too. So it's
You're,
like, bro, come on, Zoro.
you're skipping some things.
I'm skipping? What did I
Yeah,
skip?
because the actual getting to Lost Island because they're being chased by the Marines after they
They're
leave
not even,
Warship
no.
Island.
I'm talking about Worship Island still.
Are you still? But like he doesn't. They don't even really like fight him on Warship. They just fucking run away from him.
Okay, okay, but the funny thing is I was trying to get to was like Luffy stretches out his arm and he like pulls Zoro back, you know? Do you remember that?
No.
Oh my
Does he
god,
do
it's
one of
like
those things where he grabs Zoro and like basically throws him against a wall
no,
or
he's
through
like
obstacles?
because like Zoro's like here, okay. Let me turn. Zoro's like here, okay. And then like and Luffy's like down here. And like Apis is like, "Oh, the birds are saying that Zoro's in trouble." And so like Luffy stretches out his arm, gets Zoro and then like brings him back. And Zora's like, "Oh no, not again," because I guess it's happened before in the episode. I don't know when,
No, it's happened
but it's
before in
happened.
the series where he's just like
Oh, okay.
grabbed by Luffy and sent just like through a bunch of solid objects.
Yeah.
It's just beaten up
Oh,
by
okay.
Luffy's stretchy powers, basically.
Yeah. And I think he like hits a bunch of trees here.
Yeah,
But like,
exactly.
yeah. But it was just so funny because he's like, no, because I think he does it to Sanji too at one point.
Yeah,
So yeah,
you zoned out when they were talking about whether Appi's having eaten a devil fruit. I zoned out every single time they fought Sicko, man.
man, come on now. I mean
He's
that
just too
was
much
just
of a
that
sicko.
was
I
a
wanted
funny
to look away.
part.
I
Cracking up.
all right, if you say so.
Okay, but that's all I wanted to say about that. Okay,
Okay.
what else you want to say?
So moving on from there, they're being chased by the Marines to head to Lost Island, where supposedly the dragon needs to go to like see his lost dragon brethren, um,
Mm-hmm.
and heal from his dementia, I guess. Uh,
Yeah.
and it turns out it's just surrounded by a mirage, and nobody's bothered to sail into the mirage.
Yeah. I'm like, I guess because of the fog and the weather, like it just creates like a weird mirage. And I
Well,
mean,
it's actually they actually have like a pretty grounded, even if it's still actually bullshit because there's no way this
mhm.
fucking happened.
Yeah, of
But they
course.
actually have a relatively grounded explanation for it, where inside the Mirage, it's like super stormy, or was it the other way around? It was super stormy outside the Mirage. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't
There were like
remember. I
really,
think it was stormy before they went into the
oh yeah,
mirage.
the Mirage was at the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which actually makes a lot more sense as to why nobody would go into the Mirage. Um,
Yeah. That's right.
so is so it's like really difficult to navigate through the storm, and the effects of the storm weather cause there to be a mirage, that
Yeah.
covers the entire island so nobody can see it. So not only is navigating through the storm really fucking hard, um, and dangerous, but also it looks like there's no point in even going inside the storm anyways because it just looks like there's an empty spot. Um,
Yeah. So it's like a perfect hiding spot, which is pretty cool. So
yeah,
like good for them, you know?
yeah.
Good
So
good
they,
good for the dragons.
well, I mean, until you find out that's not actually totally relevant to the dragons,
Yeah.
because they go there. It turns out there's a bunch of ruins from the ancient people who now live on Warship Island. That
Yeah,
effective.
and Usopp and you see the ruins and Usopp was like, "Oh wow, did the dragons build them?" And they're like, and not like, "No, you idiot!" Like,
Fucking dumbass.
like Appis's like ancestors probably built them. Like, what are you talking about? The dragons.
They could have used an archaeologist for this trip, but thankfully Nami actually has some brains inside her.
Thank God, because like
Yeah,
they need one, you know. They need somebody.
yeah. So it turns out, dragons don't actually do anything on this island. Turns out they actually go to Warship Island, and it's a 1,000-year migratory
Yeah.
cycle for the dragons to go to Warship Island. And so Dr. Ryu was never Doctor Uncle Ryu was never lost in the first place. He just needed to wait a little bit longer. And so they go to leave again. And they need to take Uncle Ryu on another fucking wooden uh fucking cart again down the side of a mountain again to go on the boat to leave again, and they're being chased by Sicko Man again. But this time Zoro attempts to fight him, and I say
And is
attempts.
struggling.
Well, I say attempts because instead of them running away from Sicko Man, it's now Sicko Man running away from Zoro because he cares only about the dragon. So Zoro doesn't actually ever fight him.
Yeah. Yeah. And and like Luffy is like staring at them fighting, and Zoro's like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like standing around, like staring, like go on and take off and like run. And Luffy's like, oh my bad, hee hee, and like takes off running.
Yeah.
But I think before that, like Luffy tries to punch a hole through the wall and like fails, and then like
And then
the
the
hole
section of
breaks,
the
and
wall
the other
next
side.
to him falls over. That was a pretty good bit.
Yeah, yeah, that was funny.
He's like, I really thought that would have worked. Just
And
next
everybody's
to
just
him.
staring at him like, oh my god, okay. It's like it works every other time.
Yeah. It was a really sturdy wall, at least that section of it.
Yeah. And I think they asked, like, Apis, like, begs Uncle Ryu, like, tell us, you have to remember, like, tell us where it is. And that's when, like, he, like, remembers and, you know, they're able to
Yeah.
realize, like, oh, it's actually over here, you know?
Yeah, some stuff happens that makes the plot advance, I guess.
Yeah.
I do when I think about it though, I think it's like just really obnoxious and silly that they do the exact same thing twice with the running away from Sicko Man on a cart with Ryu.
Oh my god. I feel so bad for Ryu, like, on the on that cart, like, bouncing around and
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot, like, on their way to Lost Island, Apis tries to cook again, and and she trips and, like, spills the hot food, like, on Uncle Ryu's, like, bald spot,
Oh yeah,
and it,
well
like
that makes him remember.
yeah, and that makes him remember.
Oh, that's how they find Lost Island in the
Yeah,
first
that yeah,
place, I
yeah.
think. Because they're like,
Yeah.
we don't know where the fuck we're going.
Yeah, we just took off.
Ryu, please tell me where we're going. And he's like, I don't know if we're gonna remember. Spills hot sauce on his bald spot. And he's like, I got it.
A little bit of trauma, just makes
It's
him
a
remember.
trauma response.
So funny. And that's my thing. It's just like it's so weird, like how they make him remember. I'm like, don't try that with your family members who have dementia, okay, guys?
Yeah,
That's not gonna work.
I'm just gonna pour some fucking boiling water on people with
Oh my
dementia.
god.
They'll remember everything.
I mean, like, because some animals have dementia. Like there are dogs who have dementia. When they
Every
get old.
old creature gets dementia. Like it's just literally a degradation of the brain. So every
So
creature
sad.
that has a brain gets dementia if it gets too old.
It's so sad. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. And so they go back to Worship Island. But surprise! Commodore Nelson's there now because Sicko Man is such a failure and never reports back. He's like, I gotta take things in my own hands, and so he surrounds them with a
Yeah, with like
fleet.
chains. Yeah.
Yeah, with chains interconnecting the ships, but he surrounds them with a fleet of battleships in what would you'll see what you'll see for the rest of One Piece is would ordinarily be something akin to a checkmate move of the Navy, um,
Mm-hmm.
where they are where like it's effectively impossible to escape. It's like devastatingly damaging and whatnot. Like you see in Alabasta, in part because they use giant iron metal rods. Like the ship
Yeah.
takes significant damage by the time they're able to escape. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just like really pathetic here, and it really undercuts the strength of the Marines as an organization if they have like over somewhere between 5 and 10 like actual full battleships constantly firing cannons
Oh yeah,
at the
like
Straw Hat
relentlessly.
ship, and they like barely have to do anything to even deflect the cannonballs because I guess they all would just miss constantly.
Oh yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, they even Zoro, Luffy, and Sanji even ditch the ship at one point to go
Yeah.
and directly attack another ship for in a move that I'm pretty sure turns out to just end up being like completely pointless.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think like what like Sicko says like, oh, I thought Commodore Nelson was just like a useless fatty, but like I guess this is why he got
he
the
got
rank
his
he
rank,
has.
yeah. Which how would he have got? He would not have had the authority to do that thing, that type of maneuver prior to getting one of the higher ranks. So how did he get to a high enough rank to be able to do that in the first place?
You know, just I mean, it's part of the filler. It's a part of the mystery. We'll never know.
You'll never know how such a fucking fat man was able to get a high rank in the Marines.
Because, you got Smoker who's, like, fit, he works out, takes care of
Dude,
himself, and,
all of the higher ranked Marines are, I wouldn't say they're all buff, but they're all, relatively in shape, or at a minimum, have a devil fruit power that makes up for that. This
Yeah.
guy is just a fat ass with no devil fruit, and he's a
Yeah, and then
combo.
he tips over at one point, and he's like, "Pick me back up." Because of the attack on the ship, he just
Yeah,
falls inside this
yeah,
chair. Ugh.
yeah. So
But I
it's
think the Straw Hats' whole thing is like, right, their whole thing is they're gonna like cut the chains, I guess.
yeah. What
Or
gets
Zoro
me
is.
what gets me about that is they're getting cannonballs fired at them, and the only three of them that are able to deflect cannonballs from hitting the ship all go to directly attack the one ship. And so there's no one protecting the ship anymore at that point. And it's like, what do all of the other ships just stop firing cannonballs entirely, or are they just that incompetent at aiming such that they just never get a shot off that hits the ship? It's just bad.
Yeah.
They're just bad Marines.
Yeah, they're just, I mean, and they're just wasting supplies at that point. Like, it just,
Um,
it's just a mess.
and it is also interesting to know in regards to the cutting of the chains how Zoro is able to do that despite the fact that canonically it takes until Alabasta for him to be able to cut steel.
Yeah, exactly. And
Just continuity.
yeah, but at least he tried. I guess he was willing to try. So like, good for
Yeah.
him, I guess.
He did
Whatever.
take a moment to focus between each cut, so maybe he entered into that fucking zen state that it took him nearly dying to accomplish.
Like, I can hear the chains. I can hear it. So weird.
Yeah. I can hear the vibration of the chains. Now I'm able to cut them. The swordsman who can cut anything can also cut nothing.
It's like those people that like think inanimate objects like can talk and like have souls and stuff.
I mean, let's not make fun of a legitimately like super cool and moment from an actually well written moment from Alabasta that's really important to Zoro's character to
Okay, it
something that's
is.
like
And I did.
discontinuous filler nonsense.
Oh, okay, but to be fair, I did commend the moment, right? I did at the time. So like,
Well,
okay,
yeah,
I'll give you that.
I'm pretty sure I pointed it out with full knowledge that he shouldn't be able to cut steel. I was like, that's a
Yeah.
little fucking odd. He's just cutting these chains.
You know what? They're a different kind of steel.
Well,
They're like
actually,
weaker steel.
to be fair, now that I'm thinking about it, he has cut cannonballs prior to being able to cut steel. But I guess cannonballs are made of iron, so I guess a little different. Maybe those chains are made of iron too. I don't know. It's
They're the knockoff version of steel.
yeah. It's just
They're the great value brand.
I mean, there is definitely a very marked difference in strength between steel and iron. Steel being folded in on itself and refined and all that jazz, whereas iron is just the base fucking material.
Hmm.
But I don't know. It just comes across as odd in
Yeah.
retrospect.
Yeah. Once you like look back at it, which I'm sure like most people don't. But, like,
I mean, when you're initially watching the series, you have no fucking clue that Zoro shouldn't be able to cut steel.
yeah.
And I lost my train of thought. And also in part because it's fucking filler. But even if they don't know that it's filler, they're probably gonna forget that he in that moment cut chains because it's not until like 80 episodes later that he learns to cut steel.
And so much happens between those
Yeah.
points that just like who cares about the dragons? Who cares about that time?
Who cares about the dragons anymore, man? Fucking point.
I care about the dragons, but I'm sure nobody else does.
I mean, they won't show up again for another 1,000 years. So like,
Yeah. So like,
you're not gonna
well,
be alive.
nope. Won't show up in the One Piece universe anytime soon. So whatever.
It's actually interesting. And it's not even like said yet. I don't think to the point in One Piece that we're at now. But you can effectively think of the history of the current like society in One Piece as being around like 800 to 900 years in length. Um, so I actually did find it interesting that it's 1,000 year dragons and that they last showed up 1,000 years ago, prior to the current world government organization um existing. Uh,
That's interesting.
Not that it matters because there's never going to be like a connection or anything drawn between the two, and it's, who gives a
Hey, you
fuck?
never know. You know what? You never know.
Yeah,
It
you know
could. It
what?
could be.
Oda
You
in
know.
the final stretch of the arc, he's gonna reference the Millennial Dragon filler.
It's gonna be written down in some history book. You know, like, oh yeah, I remember that. You know,
Yeah.
a little Easter egg. You never
I mean,
know.
it's entirely possible he makes some kind of like shitposty reference to like the fact that there's like there was like a group of dragons or whatever written down in some like history somewhere. This is some cheeky, but it's never gonna be fucking important. And
Yeah.
if it'll probably, if anything, be like an SBS thing. If any of the people who ask questions for him in the SBS corner actually fucking remember the dragon filler
Yeah. Honestly,
or
which nobody
care
will.
about it even because they're manga readers.
Yeah. I care about it, but anyway,
Yeah,
I will
anyway,
always care about the dragons.
we do get a cool moment where Usopp destroys the big ass cannon.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, and then
They didn't
Usopp
get
was
to
like,
have Usopp
yeah,
do something
I'm
this
gonna
arc.
do this, I'm gonna do that, and Apis is like, okay, yeah, sure, Usopp, whatever. And then she sees him do it, she's like, oh my god, that was actually really cool, and he gets all like hee hee, like shy.
um so during all the quote unquote chaos of the marine ships attacking them, Sicko Man shows up again and tries to steal away the dragon.
Yeah,
um and Luffy has to protect the dragon, and there's like a bunch of fucking like dialogue that basically doesn't matter, but it comes down to the dragon putting himself in harm's way to like protect Apis, and being like shot down
yeah,
by cannons and whatnot. Uh,
yeah,
and he's fucking dying, not just from dementia, but also from injuries now.
yeah,
Um, and we get this cool moment where Luffy effectively talks to Ryu.
yeah,
Um, though not in the same manner as Apis. He doesn't actually like linguistically talk to him. He kind of like intuits what Ryu is trying to say and feel. And this is interesting. Because we find out much later in One Piece that Luffy actually does have some level of capability of communicating with various animals. Um, and there are people who can do that without eating, outside of Luffy, without eating a devil fruit.
I always I guess watching this, I always kind of thought it as like he can do that because like he is kind of like pure of heart, you know, and he has very good intentions, and he does represent like loyalty, friendship, like just like a good-hearted person. And so like, you know, and because animals are like, you know, these dragons kind of like represent like the good like they are the good guys technically. That's why like Luffy can kind of communicate with them. So,
I mean, certainly the
or
intention
him.
at the time this was written was that Luffy. I would perhaps it's for the reasons you just mentioned, but I think it's more so because he's like um so emotionally honest and able to understand how also people think.
Yeah.
Um, that he's able to understand how the dragon thinks too. It's like a characteristic of Luffy that he's able to understand emotions in a better way than most people.
Yeah.
Um,
And that makes sense. Yeah.
but it's interesting to reflect upon with the knowledge that this will become like an actual like thing that people can do for like reasons, when the writers for this filler arc just kind of fucking like came up with it on their own without that and being the intention.
Yeah. So it kind of circles back, connects a little bit, which is
Yeah.
nice.
um so that's cool.
And and like in the flashback, like Uncle Ryu has like he is flying in the air with his like dragon brethren. So I thought that was nice. Like he's reminiscing about the past. So, in his
Yeah.
final moments. And he also is, in his dying moments, he's reminiscing about Opus too. And like um no, think it's before. Like while like Sicko was like hurting her because like she's in the way. And he's like thinking about all the times like that he has helped her like when she first found him, like her like visiting him and being like, "Oh, like I'm going to get you home. We're going to find out like how to get you back to Lost Island," and just like her taking care of him. Like you can tell like based on those memories that he did appreciate her. And so like of course he's going to protect her. That's going to be his last act of kindness. So
Yeah. um and so you get all this funny stuff where the dragon's fucking dying and everybody's like freaking out and there's marines and it's like kind of chaotic but also kind of not, and we find out the dragons start coming, the flock
yeah.
of dragons start coming, and we find out that the reason they come to Lost Island every 1,000 years, who the fuck knows where they are for the other rest of the time.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like,
It's a migratory
okay, so
pattern. They
so
have to be coming from somewhere.
yeah, I'm like, do they go? Okay, because I was like, okay, like this Sikosuka's been looking for the Millennial Dragons for so long, but they're migratory. So like, you're telling me he couldn't find any of these dragons the whole time? Like these dragons, I mean, like they're pretty big. Like, what do they have camouflage powers? Like,
No,
are they
they
invisible?
just fly
Like
above
what?
the clouds for 999 years consecutively.
It's just so weird. I was like, wait, okay, that's kind of weird, but like, I'm too busy crying, so like, I won't think about it too hard.
I guess they go to Hidden Island, so
Yeah, oh
it's
yeah,
it's always in the
there's like
topic.
another Mirage somewhere, and they
Yeah,
go to
in
that
some other
island.
ocean.
So yeah.
Maybe they go to the final island of the Grand Line. That's why.
Oh yeah, yeah. They go there and like chill. Nobody
Yeah,
bothers them. Yeah, good
yeah.
for them.
Oh jeez. So the reason they come back to Warship Island every 1,000 years is because the fucking like tide recedes to like an insane degree, every 1,000 years, and so a bunch of land reveals itself, and that's where they like birth their young or
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. And so like Uncle Ryu, like basically he dies and then like he reincarnates. So
What you just glossed over like a lot with that
you know
statement.
that's the important
Um,
part. Okay, that's like the number one important thing. Okay.
I mean, you get this really cool aesthetic like landscape,
Oh yeah.
where you have all of these I guess fossilized dragon corpses
Mhm.
that scatter about the landscape from dragons who have previously died in that land, that then of course the tide flowed back in again. Although many of them are in poses that are a little ridiculous for a dragon to have died in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but
Like
it's
you
aesthetic. Don't think about it too
it's
much.
pretty, so it's fine, you know?
Yeah. Uh, and Ryu is like, wow, that this is where I have tried to go this entire time. This is what I've wanted. This is where my dream is, and I actually want to die. I am meant to die here, uh, where the rest of my people have died and become part of the landscape, and sort of be part of the circle of life, as the Lion King would put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and this, and Luffy's like, "Oh, I get it. You've accomplished your dream. This is your dream. This is what you want. You've accomplished it. I feel you, man. Go. I let you be." But
Yeah.
Obby's like, "No, fuck you. I want him to be alive." Um,
Yeah, of course. Because, like, of course, like, it makes sense because, like, she's like, "We finally made it, like, now you can go out and, like, live your life and be happy," and, of course, like, Ryu's like, you know."
but instead, it's the Ryu realizes that uh, uh finding this land again did not cure him of his ailments. Um, it just gave him a place to die.
Sense of relief and, like, peace, you know?
Yeah, it gave him
It
peace.
kinda reminds me of, like, people who, like, kinda who are on their deathbeds and, like, you always hear from, like, doctors and nurses who, like, this patient is, like, you know, like, in a coma or, like, dying, and then, like, once their loved ones, like, finally, like, get to the hospital and, like, see and, like, they hear their loved ones or they see their loved ones, then they finally pass, you know, like, that's what it kinda reminded me of a little bit, so,
Yeah, it is the emotional point of the arc,
yeah.
and dare I say the only important thing that actually happens. Um,
So rude. So rude.
where Apis has to learn to accept that this is Ryu's fate, and learn to let go of him and let him die.
Yeah.
And also about the circle of life, because I mean, they say the thing about like being reincarnated into a new dragon, but I am pretty sure that's meant more as a metaphor than a literal thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so.
So it's like this is not Ryu 2.0 dragon chick.
Yeah, it's not like Ryu's consciousness, like, in the baby dragon, you know?
Yeah,
But, like
or Ryu's spirit, but it is in a sense like just a continuation of his existence, in the sense that like what this is what life is like. You live and you die, but you also bring about new life, probably, during or after your own.
yeah,
And it's a cycle.
yeah, and I don't know if you ever heard of, like, the therapy, like, DBT, like, it's like a therapy that, like, people with, like, personality disorders, do, and, there's, like, a thing that you learn in DBT called, like, radical acceptance, where you learn like, you go through painful experiences, but you don't let those painful experiences, like, break you. You learn to kinda, like, accept that, like, yes, painful things happen, and those bad experiences do happen, and you accept it, and you learn to kinda live with it and let it go and, like, continue on moving with your life. So, like so that's, like, kinda what I got, you know,
I
out of the episode, basically, you
I
know,
I
at this
think
point.
I think a funny little game called Library of Ruina has a few things to say about that idea,
Oh,
that
really?
topic. Yeah.
I think it also, like, the radical acceptance also has, like, roots in philosophy as well, so, yeah, yeah. It's,
Yeah,
like, a common, like, analogy, so,
philosophical shit. Uh,
yeah.
I
And,
mean,
what else? And like also like this kind of reminded me of like I guess what also made me kind of sad about this that it kind of reminded me of like illegal like poaching. You know how like
Oh yeah, I mean
people will like
that is effectively like what they're doing
yeah,
at the end of the day is poaching.
yeah, kind of like
That's what it means. It's
yeah,
like if the cops were poaching.
yeah, honestly. And I'm sure like police officers or like government officials are kind of like paid off to kind of like let it slide a little bit. Like I wouldn't be surprised. Kind of like they sell elephant tusk, you know, for like medicinal purposes, and a lot of the time, poaching um happens because those items are being sold for medicinal purposes, even though we know those things don't work, you know. So yeah, and it's kind of like
Or the
this
fucking like
elixir of
colloidal
life.
silver. I would have actually thought like perhaps there's some level of like medicinal purpose to animal bones and whatnot.
Yeah, no,
I
yeah,
I'll take your word for it. I mean, it also makes equally as much sense that there isn't any practical purpose for those things.
yeah. I think in the way that it's used, and like in the way that it's used, it doesn't work, you know. So yeah, basically it's a scam. Like
Thank God
people
there
are
are
being
herbal
like poor people
remedies.
are being scammed. Poor people who can't afford to go to the doctor are being scammed. So, it's sad. So, but this is kind of what it reminded me of because like, is there probably an elixir of life? Like, do
I
these
mean, it is One
dragons?
Piece. I would. Uh, I mean, they kind of talk about it at the end, actually, whether or
Hmm.
not there actually is an elixir of life, and they're like, I mean, you could eat some fucking fossilized dragon shit, and maybe you would, maybe you would earn eternal life. But I think they
But
come
I
to
mean,
the
like,
conclusion that's like a farce, a scam. I don't remember the details.
yeah. So like, is there an elixir of life? Like, probably not. It's probably just a scam. So like, all this work, you have wasted your whole life. Like, you could be doing so much more with your life, and it's all just been wasted. You know. So yeah, don't fall for scams, guys.
Don't get scammed. You know, it's just that easy. Just don't get scammed.
Be
Uh,
smart. Think things through before you just throw your whole life away, you know?
don't invest in Bitcoin.
God, don't like Mary Kay, don't fall for Mary Kay, like don't fall for pyramid schemes, okay, guys?
Yeah, no pyramid schemes, please.
Please. Like God.
Uh,
If I get one more Facebook invite, I'm gonna scream. Just saying.
there, I feel like there are some other recent scams that I could mention but I not off the top of my head. It's mostly just fucking Bitcoin shit or crypto shit.
Crypto, yeah. Those freaking like crypto in like what is
Crypto
it, Twitter
influencers.
messages?
I
The
I don't
worst.
fucking know. I know there's crypto influencers.
Yeah.
Whatever, it doesn't
It's just the
matter.
worst. Yeah, yeah. Anyways.
It's not related to One Piece.
Yeah. Anyways.
um, I did forget to mention when the tide receded, that also ran every single marine ship aground, but
Hmm.
it didn't run aground the Going Merry.
You
They
know,
were
like
just like luckily parked right in the fucking center, like where a lake would be.
yeah, thank the Lord, you know?
Yeah, those fucking lucky motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, like the freaking dinosaur dragons like protected them, you know?
Yeah. Also to that end, Ryu actually like fucking when he died, he also drowned. In
Oh
the sea as
yeah,
well.
that's right.
He kind of like fucking sank or whatever.
So sad. It was so
Whatever.
emotional.
That's basically all the important shit. Because again, Sicko not exactly a intense combatant. He kind of fucking sucks. Nelson is just a fatty without all of his ships. And they
Yeah.
both suck when they're talking about like eating the fossilized dragon corpses or whatever.
But
And is whatever. They leave
Yep.
Oppies behind. She becomes a historian, just like the grandpa dude. And they're like, "Bye! It's time to go to the Grand Line now. Bye."
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah,
But like I think it's nice that like Opus she finds her purpose in life through this wild experience.
yeah.
So good for her. I
All
mean,
right.
it's probably something she would have done, but this experience has given her like
Motivation.
kind of the motivation, yeah,
Um,
to do it. So yeah,
all right. Well, we're also going to use this opportunity to talk about one of the cover story arcs. I
I
believe
hated
it
this.
comes later. I don't fully remember, but it might come after Reverse Mountain.
I don't think
Um,
so.
yeah, it doesn't matter. We're talking about fucking Garp. Garp, 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 Garp. He's a really cool guy. Um,
Hmm.
so this cover story is essentially about Helmeppo and Kobe's journey to become Marines, and what it means to them, and how they how their journey intersects with, or they become subordinates of, effectively, um, Vice Admiral Garp, uh, and it's cool stuff. Um,
Yeah,
so
Helmopo can like drown, but like he can go watch a sunset, but
well,
whatever.
he becomes kind of cool by the end of the cover story.
I still don't like him.
I mean, he
He's
definitely
annoying.
sucks, but he becomes a little cooler.
He
Um,
can go watch a sunset for all I care.
so what are your initial thoughts on Vice Admiral Garp, hero of the Marines?
It's like the dog man, right?
Yes, this is Dogman, and
He's a
also
weirdo.
this is our first introduction of somebody of such a high rank in the Marines, because that is actually the third highest rank. There's the fleet admiral at the top. There are the admirals, and then there are the vice admirals. Garp is a vice admiral, and he is also known as the hero of the Marines.
Yeah, that's right. And so everybody's like really in awe to see him at this point. But
Yeah,
I mean, he's pretty cool, but he's kind of a weirdo. So
he is
like I
definitely
really
a
don't
weirdo.
know like what he like pretends to die
He
at
doesn't
one
pretend to
point.
die; he falls asleep.
Yeah, he falls asleep and like everybody thinks he's dead. He's like, what happened? I don't know.
Yeah,
And like
I
he's
mean,
very eccentric.
does anything strike you about the fact that he eats a lot and falls asleep while eating?
No.
All right then, moving on.
Not really. I don't know. This dude's just not very interesting to me, I guess.
Well, I
He's
mean,
just like another,
you don't even get to see his face, to be fair.
yeah, he's
I
just
mean,
kind of a dude bro.
what do you think of this body shape though?
He's just like a big guy, right? With like a
he's
doggy hat.
he's more than a big guy. He's like the most broadly chested man to ever
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah, that's
He's
true.
he is like the hourglass figure, but for men.
Oh my god. That's like the perfect description for him, honestly.
His chest is just so fucking massive, and
It
then
it's bigger than it's bigger than smokers, honestly.
yeah, Smoker is like a normally proportioned man, whereas Garp is just like all chest and no waist and no
In no
hips.
ways. Tiny legs.
Yeah.
Poor guy. He's skipping leg day. He needs to be out
He's,
there with El Mopo and Kobe.
I mean, wait till you see his daily routine, man.
Oh my
Um,
god.
but
But like I really like I guess I can see why like he kind of takes those two like Kobe and Helmelpo like under his wing, but like I don't know, I don't think I would. I don't know what that says about me, but
I
like
mean,
I
you're
wouldn't.
also not the hero of the Marines, so
No, thank God.
um
Too much
so
work.
the cover story starts out with them working at the Marine base formerly captained by Morgan,
Yeah,
Axe Hand Morgan.
which must be so awkward.
I'm in what regard?
I'm thinking because like everybody, because you got Helmuppo there, right? Who used to like terrorize everybody, and then so now he's working as like
Cabin boy.
what, like a
Or
chore boy.
Choi boy, yeah.
Yeah, and and so like your dad used to terrorize all the Marines, and you used to terrify all of them. So now you're working under everybody. Like that's gotta be awkward.
Yeah, to some extent. He was fucking dick
Yeah,
before his dad got arrested.
I'd be like,
Um
yo, can I get transferred somewhere else where nobody knows me?
and he's still kind of a dick because you see he has very little motivation to becoming a Marine.
Yeah, he
Um
doesn't. He doesn't want anything to do with it.
while Kobe is like trying to actively inspire him to do so. Um there comes a point where because of their like ineptitude or whatever, they like blow up a house with a cannon on accident because they're fighting with each other on a roof. It's entertaining.
Yeah, yeah,
Um
and like Helmuppo is like, I just want to get back to my normal life, like
yeah, he just
being,
wants to go back to the rich boy life.
which like I guess I would too.
I mean,
But
who doesn't want to be privileged?
yeah, but that's the life he's always lived. So of course he'd want to go back to that. But Kobe's like, like you're here to kind of change. Like you're not, you need to become like a better person. I think it's like kind of whole Kobe's thing.
Yeah.
And him up was like, nah, I'm not interested in that, bro. And like, so their ideals, like, when you're kind of with somebody 24/7 who has very different ideals than you and who's very like antagonistic, like you guys are going to fight. Especially when you guys like have no common ground. And at this point, these two have no common ground with each other.
Yeah.
They just can't, they don't see each other and they don't understand each other. So like, of course, like they're gonna accidentally set off a cannon and hit a house. Duh.
Yeah. And because of that incident, they get sentenced to like something like 30 years or something
Yeah.
extra time as cabin boys
Yeah.
or chore boys. Um and Helmeppo is like, I would rather quit than sit here 30 years at the bottom rung of the ladder, which honestly fair. Um
Same.
but
Same.
Kobe's like, don't fucking give up on your dream, man. I will sit here and I will diligently work for 30 years to prove my worth because I want to be a Marine. I don't know if he says at this point that he wants to be an admiral. He wants to be that guy.
Yeah, I don't think he says that yet, but like, yeah. But I don't know. Kobe's kind of annoying. I just like I don't know, like that whole like very kind of a, I don't know, that huge sense of like justice, I guess. Kind of like high and mighty, just like is very irritating, especially to somebody who does not have that kind of attitude, who's like not about that life.
I mean, he
It's like,
definitely has a very naive understanding of the
yes.
Marines, and he's very idealistic in his sense of justice. But the important takeaway from his like goals is that he just doesn't want to give up on his dreams. Like that was the inspiration that Luffy gave him, is to never give up on your dreams. And his dream, however naive of a dream it may be for a variety of reasons, is to be a Marine. So he's
Yeah.
not going to give up on that dream to be a Marine.
Yeah. Which like, good for him, I guess, but like kind of annoying, I guess. I guess like with his character, it's like, I don't know, I feel like he has no other personality trait but that. So like kind of annoying, I guess.
I mean, you're not exactly wrong.
So like I'm just
in
like,
some ways.
So, like, at this point, I was just like, at this point in the story, I'm just like, okay, I'm kind of over it, like, okay. It's not as compelling as the dragons, but okay.
Uh, so what happens is that there is a prisoner transfer for Axan Morgan to go to Garp, to so that he can take him to Marine headquarters for processing and sentencing, effectively.
Yeah.
Um,
Which I'm like, why would why would you have his son be involved? That's just weird, I guess.
well, yeah, I mean, because he's part of the Marine base now. Um, I guess it's like not that big of a deal. It makes enough sense. I get that there's like a conflict of your interest type of like deal there.
Hmm.
But it also is not like a significant enough one given Helmeppo's like position as a chore boy and the relationship between him and his dad that it like functionally matters, I would say.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I guess.
outs outside of the fact that he's able to escape because Garp fell asleep while eating donuts, and takes Helmeppo hostage to get away.
Of course. Like, take your own son hostage. Oh my god.
Yeah,
And of course, like, Helmeppo is like very scared of his dad. I'm like, he has trauma, he's got daddy issues. And so like of course, like him being a hostage of his dad, like what is he going to do? So
yeah.
I'm like, ooh, this is rough. And of course Kobe, like being the kid that he is like, I'm gonna go save him. And I'm like, God bless,
You,
you know?
and you also mentioned it is a bit silly to not disarm Axehand Morgan,
Yeah.
uh because like sure the axe may be his arm, but you could also destroy the blade part of the axe or like take it off in some way, shape, or form so that he can't just like attack his captors.
Yeah.
It might be smart, but they don't.
It's
Uh,
just so I was just like, this makes no sense. Why wouldn't you do that? Like obviously Axe Hand Morgan was the worst kind of scum human being on the face of the earth. Of course he's gonna try to run away. He's not gonna go quietly. So like you gotta
yeah.
disarm him.
Uh, literally disarm him. Please get rid of his arm.
Please, just like chop
Yeah,
it off. Just you know what? If you can't take it off, just chop off the whole thing. Well, I mean, he doesn't need it. He's fine. He'll be fine. He'll live.
yeah, yeah. He lost his arm once. He can lose it again.
He'll be fine. Just
Yeah,
build another one later, whatever.
yeah. Um, so he takes Elmepo hostage, and while Garp is still asleep, the people on his ship go to fire a cannon to blow it up, to just
Yeah.
ignore the fucking hostage. Who gives a shit about Helmeppo the chore
I
boy?
don't.
We'll,
I
we'll
don't.
just we'll just I mean, we're like the state of Israel here, man. We just don't care about human shields. It's just he's just a human shield, you know. You fucking get rid of him. Doesn't matter.
I mean, just him up, oh, I would, like whatever. He's
um,
useless. Like I wouldn't even give him a second thought. Like deuces, bye.
yeah. But Kobe, in his idyllic sense of justice, stands in front of the cannon, and says, "No, don't do it, you piece of shit. Why are you going to blow up a hostage, for the sake of getting at the criminal?" And now that I'm thinking about it, it is a bit odd that they're willing to kill the hostage of Himepo to get at Axan Morgan, but they are not willing to also blow up Kobe.
As Kobe's more likable.
I
That's
guess
why.
Kobe's got more charisma, man.
He's more useful than Helmeppo, so they're
Yeah,
like, whatever.
I think there
They're
might
like
have
Helmeppo like terrorized us and like made our life hell, so like
I
whatever.
think there might have been conversations about like the dynamic of the who the hostage is and who Kobe is whether or not
Yeah.
like either one of them are useful or whatever. Um, but I also could be making that up. It doesn't
Hmm.
fucking matter. It's just the
I
weird.
think so,
It's just like
to be
weirdly
honest.
hypocritical to be like, I'm gonna blow up this one hostage, but this guy who's standing in front of the cannon, who effectively is making himself into a hostage by doing so,
And
not gonna
just
blow
obeying
him up.
orders.
Yeah. Um, and he,
And he has to like swim all the way to the freaking boat too.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. So he convinces them to not fire the cannonball and to let him arrest Axehand Morgan, despite the fact that he's like, very clearly outclassed.
oh yeah,
Um, and so he, on his own, swims over to the boat, and very much attempts to arrest Axehand Morgan. But through his attempts to do so, he kind of like inspires Helmeppo to stand up for himself. And Helmeppo joins in fighting Axehand Morgan, his dad.
they're like
Also because his
hanging
dad
onto his
sucks.
arms.
Yeah. Um,
They like swinging from his back, like all kind of crazy stuff.
yeah. Uh, and of course they inevitably fail. And
Of course, yeah.
eventually Garp wakes up. He is surprised, still alive, despite the giant slash in his chest. All of his girthy muscles made it very shallow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
his big old chest.
and he intervenes. I don't remember the details, but they get Morgan arrested again, and Kobe and Helmeppo are saved.
Yeah.
Most
And
importantly,
and I'm
though,
like,
oh,
Axan Morgan though, the worst human being. I'm like, that is your kid, bro. Like, come on,
Exxon
so
Morgan
evil.
is an authoritarian and a bad parent,
Yeah.
or rather, he's a fascist and a bad parent. We have like
Yeah.
this. We're making. We've been effectively collecting a log of bad people, as we journey through this through One Piece. We have
Yeah.
Axon Morgan, a fascist and a terrible parent. We have Buggy, who is actually, I wouldn't say he's a narcissist. He's super greedy.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, very greedy.
he's just all greed all day, every day. Um, we have Kuro, who is a sociopath. Um,
Yeah.
we have Don Krieg, who is a narcissist. And I guess to some not to some extent, he's also a fascist of his own pirate crew.
Yeah.
Um, we have Arlong, who is a racist and a fascist, just like the rest of
And
them,
he's also greedy. He's like a
and greedy.
warlord.
He's a warlord. He's a racist warlord. That's probably
Yeah.
the best way of describing Arlong.
Yeah.
Um, and
Um
by the point where we've watched, at least, we also have Crocodile, who is also just like an awful, who's also a
come of the
fascist. Who's
yeah.
also a sociopathic fascist.
Like the full like you look up the definition of fascist and you get crocodile.
Yeah,
Honestly.
it's like quite literally, he's like a manipulative fascist.
And like he's just a terrible person as well. Like One Piece has like the scariest villains.
Yeah,
like in
I,
like in shonen, like out of like Naruto and like Bleach, like okay, like you got your average kind of shonen villain, okay, sure. But like, man, these One Piece villains, I'm like, oh my god, like guys are terrible.
I mean, I've described some of those other villains as fascists, and Arlong is a warlord. Is probably the closest of them to being like a truly like well and successful like uh sort of fascist as we see them in real life.
Oh yeah,
Whereas Axehand Morgan is more of like one who tries to be one, but he's not in actually any
kind of
big
dumb.
significant position of authority. He only has authority over one village.
Yeah,
And what the fuck is and Don Krieg is quite literally is a pirate, so he's against the structure, even if he's an authoritarian over his own crew. But Crocodile tries to overthrow an entire fucking kingdom.
Yeah.
So
So
he is overthrowing an entire government structure so that he can be at the helm of it in a militaristic fashion as well.
yeah.
Um, that's we're not talking about fucking Alabaster right now though.
Yeah. But still.
Yeah.
Accent Morgan is still like the worst human being, or one of the worst human beings, and like the worst dad of the year. I thought Usopp's dad was
Worst dad of
like
the
a
year.
bad parent, but like Accent Morgan is up
I
there.
mean, Yasop is just neglectful, I guess.
Absent dad.
Yeah, Yasop's just an absent dad, which is bad, but like you can't make somebody worse if you're not there. You can only just like that's a really bad way of saying it because you do inherently make your child worse by not being there.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean,
But there's like a sort of limitation on how like bad of a dad you can be if you're just not present at all. Whereas if you're actively abusive towards your child, that's like, you know, step a big step farther.
which it seems like because Helmeppa was always like, I'm gonna tell my daddy on you. I'm gonna tell my daddy on you. My daddy's gonna get you. And then when he actually tattletaled to his dad, I was gonna say when he actually tattletaled to his daddy, when he actually tattletaled to his dad like smacked him around, and like Helmeppa was really shocked. So I'm
He
like, is
called
that the
him
first time he ever like hit his
yeah,
kid?
that was the first time he ever hit Helmeppo.
Okay,
And he also
so
called
like,
Helmeppo a pathetic worm. But also because of Morgan's existence, Helmeppo had an even shittier upbringing than say like Usopp because of the whole like, oh, I'm like privileged and I'm above you kind of attitude. Like fuck you.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um. Anyways, just rehashing some old shit.
yeah.
So Garp through Kobe and Helmeppo's attempts at arresting Axe and Morgan, he sees something in them. He's like, I'm gonna recruit you. I'm gonna bring you to Navy headquarters, so we can do some training and you can become cool guys. And that's basically what they do for the rest of the cover arc.
I am. And they like and of course like they hate it, or like Helmeppo hates it at first, and he's like, I
Yeah,
want to go back. I want to go home.
there's a point in time where he actively attempts to flee, but
Yeah.
Kobe stops him and like re-inspires him, and then they work even harder and train for even longer days, and they become cooler guys.
And they become beefy. And I think they like
They get swole.
oh yeah.
They
And
don't
like
get Garp swole, but they do get swole.
and then like who was it? It's like one of the guys who works under Garp is like
I don't think that guy
bars
was
with him.
given a name. He might have been given a name,
I
but I
don't
don't know if
remember.
it was ever said in this adaptation of the cover arc.
But he like spars with them, so like he does help them, and like Garp keeps like a really watchful eye over them to see how they
Yeah.
progress.
More importantly, he was like observing their conversations to gauge like where they were headed and whether or not it was like a right decision to pick them up as proteges.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I thought was it was really nice to see Helmeppo's like character kind of progress. And I think he decided like he wants to be in the Navy to kind of like progress
Yeah.
and like
He
what, to like make money
ultimately
or something.
yeah, it wasn't I don't think for the same like motivations as Kobe, but he
Yeah.
ended up having the same like goals and attitude as Kobe by the end of it.
Yeah. So I think that kind of standing up you know, kind of fake because like I do think his he doing Kika.
We're
Oh, he's
close
the
to ending, so I decided to give him some spotlight. He was on my
he's the
footrest this entire time.
he's the key. I love him. But anyways, he it is nice to see that progress with his character, and I think like standing up to your fears, which I mean he was actively scared of his dad and scared of standing up to his dad again. He does have trauma, daddy issues, and you know that really changed his mindset and kind of like gave him a reset and something. He gave him like a new goal in life, you know, gave him the courage to like find something new to work at. So I mean that was nice, but like I still don't like him. So I acknowledge that he did something, but, like, I still don't like him, so, you know.
Look at me, I'm Captain Kuro. Brr.
Oh my god. Poor Bobby, not Captain Kuro, no.
Yeah.
He's good boy.
Uh, so I have nothing else to say. Uh,
Nope.
are you all good?
I think I'm all good. But, I hope Kobe, like, you know, develops more personality, I guess, and I hope I never see Helmeppo again.
All right
So,
then.
yeah.
Next time, next week on the Pirate Odyssey, we will be talking about Reverse Island and Whiskey Peak.
Very
So
exciting.
yeah. So until then. Oh God! Ow! All right, go. Like, later.
He said, "Screw you, bye."
Yeah. Uh,
自分でなるって決めたんだ。僕は海軍将校になる男だ。
海軍将校ときたか。こいつは愉快だ。